nights travel on, I start to believe if I were to leave, in sky the man shakes his hands held high, a cruise beyond, cruise me, babe, a blonde relief beyond, beyond, beyond. Blow me down, no return. I'm deranged, I'm deranged, so cruise me, babe. Baby, and the rain sets in. It's the angel man. I'm deranged. Cruise me, cruise me, cruise me, baby. This one's a dope. Is dead.
I analysed this film in detail using David Baldwell's cognitive theory in Chapter 6 of Studying Contemporary American Film. I'm simply going to present a few minutes of that analysis before we move on to Inland Empire. Okay, but the intercom message leads the spectator to generate at least two hypotheses focused around the questions: firstly, who rang the bell? We don't find out. And who is Dick Laurent? So these two hypotheses are generated in response to the gaps in the story the plot has constructed. Okay, firstly, let's remember that knowledge about the story is severely limited. In other words, it's restricted narration. But this limitation is motivated because the narration is linked to Fred's level of awareness and experience of story events. In other words, we see and hear what Fred sees and hears. He doesn't know what's happening outside, so we don't know what's happening outside. The narration is limited to his perspective.
Dick Laurent is dead.
Our knowledge is deep, is restricted, and the narration is actually being quite communicative at this point because it gives us access to this knowledge. So the gaps in the plot are firstly spatial. The restricted narration does not show us the identity of the person outside, nor does it show us the source of the off-screen sounds. To use David Baldwell's terms again, the gaps in the story are flaunted rather than suppressed. This is a decision that the director makes of flaunting the gaps in the narration. The gaps are also clearly delineated and are therefore very specific. Finally, the gaps are temporary rather than permanent, because the gap is actually filled in at the end of the film. And I'll just point out one additional aspect. Baldwell talks about hypotheses in terms of probability and improbability. So we need to ask ourselves how probable or improbable is the inference that we're making. Now, if you haven't seen the film, I'm going to spoil it for you because the person outside pressing the intercom button, we find out right at the end of the film, is also Fred Madison. Fred Madison is in the house, he's also outside the house, pressing his own door buzzer, giving a message to himself. So sorry for spoiling him. One more point. Also, there's another gap. Who is Dick Laurent? This is also a temporary gap. It's flaunted. It's a focus gaps. It leads us to generate inferences about who is Dick Laurent. We find out halfway through the film. So again, this is an inference that we generate, and it's finally answered by the film. Okay, let's move on to Inland Empire, and let's accompany the film. Let's follow Raymond Bellor and accompany Inland Empire. First, I'll just say a few words, and then we will look at the film shot by shot. We go through it, see how far we get. Inland Empire is a series of overlapping Chinese boxes. These boxes are overlapping with transparent, malleable sides. These boxes represent fluid, malleable space. They represent internal spaces hidden within spaces. Transitioning from one box or space to another is usually strongly marked in Inland Empire. But this signaling of a transition still creates disorientation, as do the close-ups, which I find very disorientating and too close. Okay, let's look at the credit sequence.